Hi, you guys, and welcome back to another episode of Breakthrough with me, your host, Tess Timmons. Our mission is to inspire the audience to break barriers in their own life so that their dreams and desires come true in reality. Thank you again for watching. In this episode, I'm talking to Jose Torres. Jose is an author. He has been making his own podcast for several years. He also has produced films and is also a teacher. So there's so many conversations to talk about. Thanks for coming to the show.
Thank you, Tess, for inviting me. This is so great to be here. It's purely like lighthearted. It's pure lighthearted humor. If you can figure out a way to do that with what I can't. It depends on what you're working on. One of my colleagues, I love her to death, and she's so great, but she was struggling so hard because the material that we're doing is we're talking about eighth grade curriculum in wit and wisdom, and they're learning. I think it was All Quiet on the Western Front. It's a war death. How do you make this humorous? Like, how do you find the engagement there when there's like gloom and doom and death?
Right. Right.
Yeah, it really depends on the material you're working with. Some material is obviously much easier to get that reaction than something that involves death. I mean, that's a tough one, man.
Right now, I'm teaching like a technology unit. So we talked about like AI, we talked about cyberbullying. It kind of went everywhere, right? We talked about the excitement of it, like the glasses you can wear that translate street signs for you now, or hearing aids that have translation. But a lot of my students chose, so everyone could write their own essay. A lot of them chose like kind of heavier subjects, cyberbullying and issues going on and social media and location sharing and what could happen, right? And they're writing essays to parents about what teenage authorities think about social media and phones. But I also felt like, ooh, the room all of a sudden got really heavy because our topics are heavy, right?
Yeah.
So just trying to find ways to like lighten it a little bit at the same time. But then other students chose video games, right? What's the benefit of that game? So we kind of had to like find ways to like live in both. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, technology is really changing the game all
Mhm.
around. And
Yeah.
and I said this before, and I might have said it in some videos too. Like we have to evolve as teachers. We
Hmm.
can't be stuck in the old ways of doing stuff because the world is moving fast. So
Yeah.
we need to try to evolve with it. Now, I mean, I'm in my 50s now. I'm going into my mid 50s now, and I don't feel myself slowing down at all. In fact, I feel myself picking up more steam. Like I am way more into what's going on now than I was when I was much younger.
Why do you
So,
think that is?
I just don't want to be left behind.
Mm.
And plus, I think it's challenging. I think when you start losing the challenge as a teacher, you need to hang it up.
Mm.
You really do.
Yeah.
It's a tough job. It's not. Sometimes it's a thankless job, and certainly it comes with all kinds of nuances. Especially administratively, and you got to maneuver and circumvent all this stuff. But at the end of the day, it's the challenge, man, and it's always working with a completely different group of students every year. Um, Sometimes you change up faculty, so you're working with different people too. Sometimes some people leave school and they're like in a completely different school, so it changes
Yeah.
constantly.
I like to change schools because I like to work with different teams and
Yeah,
see different environments, and I
yeah,
move to different places because I like
yeah.
that challenge. Do you think some of it has to do with the fact like your father like moved from one country to another? Your mom had to like adapt in her world, right, of speaking Spanish but living in America. Like my father's an immigrant. I wonder like, are we up for challenges because we saw our parents take those challenges too?
Well, yeah. I mean, the challenges that my family faced were way harder. You know, harder. And there was a story that I saw, and forgive me for making this a loop. Okay. There was a story that Shaquille O'Neal, the fat basketball player Shaquille O'Neal. So he was playing a game when I think he said he was playing against the Knicks, and he felt pressure, and he played a bad game because he felt a lot of pressure, right? And he said this to his father. His father called him on the phone and says, "Come over, to the house." So he came over to the house and he went for a drive. He said, my father took me in the car, didn't say anything. He goes, and that's usually a bad sign when my father is silent. He just get in the car, and they drove to like this really bad part of town, right? And he says, and they sat there and they looked across the street, and there were these people that were living like in these little tents or whatever, like where homeless people live. And he saw this man come out and this woman come out, and they had like a little kid with them, and they walked out and they were going somewhere. And he goes, you see that? That is pressure. That is pressure. Imagine what that family has to figure out where they're going to eat next. No, I mean, if I have to deal with a crabby administrator, to me, that is not a pressure. What my parents did going and working in the fields, picking tomatoes, picking limes, even I did that as a kid, even as a teenager, I'd go out there. My mother told me we were out in the fields working somewhere. I think we were picking blueberries. We were up north. We were in Indiana, right? We were picking blueberries, and it was late in the day, and it was dirty. I was sweaty. I was tired. And my mother started crying. I'm like, why are you crying, Mom? Like, what happened? So she goes, I don't want this for you. Like, I see you far from the fields. I see you far from here. You got to stay in school. You got to get out of here. This can't continue in the family. I'm the only one in my family that graduated high school. And I came from a family of 8. There was 8 of us. So, my mother instilled in me a long time ago. She's like, you have 2 choices. You can work with your head or you can work with your hands. Now, you can work with your hands and be out here like the rest of us and work yourself to the bone, or you can use your head, go to college, and get a job where you're sitting inside the air conditioner. What's it going to be? So when people tell me about, the pressure and, the challenge, I'm like, I keep it to myself, Tess, because they don't know where I come from,
What do you think it is? Okay, I totally relate to you. Like, I have a lot of uncles that worked in construction, and so their bodies, I was seeing the wear and tear on them. And then my brother, sister, and I went to college, but some of my cousins did not, and they are no longer on this earth. They're gone, right? Like, I see the difference of what paths we're taking and where it can get us. Like, what do you think it is about the fact that, like, you had 8 siblings? My Canadian side, I have 8 aunts and uncles, so I totally get what you're saying. So what was it like? Why you, out of all of your siblings? Like, it's very interesting. Like, my brother, sister, and I all went to college. My mom had been the college route, but my father's family had not. So we took a chance. I wasn't going to go to college. I wasn't interested. I started working at age 12, babysitting, doing janitorial work, waitressing, bartending. I was just going to work. And my mom was like, I want you to go and try it. If you don't like it, you give me an argument by the first semester and you don't have to go anymore. And I went and I loved it. Actually, it was great. But what is it that made you, out of the 8, go? Like, that's a low stat. Like, that's shocking.
Well, I mean, honestly, it comes down to logistics. I mean, my parents split up when I was very young.
Okay.
So maybe 8
Mine.
or 9 years old, and my dad decided he was going to leave my mother and for a younger woman. You know how that story goes.
Same story. Yeah, must be our generation, is it?
Ooh, scandalous.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
I love novellas.
I gotta write a book about that. Uh,
I don't want
and
to write that book.
anyway, somewhere maybe in the future, who knows? I'll invent most of it. My mom didn't have my father around. My father is a true like old machismo type man. He was king of the castle. He governed with an iron fist, and it was his way or the highway, and there was no getting around it. At the time I was still the baby, and he got his eyes wandered and he took off and he went and started something else and left me just there with my mother. And so I was just basically raised by my mother and my 3 sisters. And
So
so
you're the youngest one.
I'm the youngest, right? And
Okay.
so my sisters protected me against my older brothers because my older brothers were drinking. By that time, they were already having a family of their own because I'm the
Yeah.
youngest, right?
Right.
So there's all this partying going on. You're smoking weed and there's beer and all this stuff going around. So my sisters protected me from that, and my mother protected me from that. They're like, we don't want you to do that. We don't want you to be like that, like your older. No, not the dog. My older brothers. I love my older brothers.
But they're seeing the path.
They were
Right.
young and they were making really bad decisions back then. I mean, they've gotten it together since then, but back then they were young and making bad decisions. And it was more like I didn't want to be like them either. even though I still found myself sometimes because I want to be part of the guys. I want to be one of the brothers, you know. And it was my mom was like, it was just it comes back to my mother all the time. My mother was the biggest influence on my life. She's like, and she used that the tears and the guilt trip. She used it, and I'm glad she did because it put me on the right path.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny. I even tell my students when we're writing essays, I'm like, okay, let's layer in that mother Catholic guilt.
I
Like,
am born and raised Catholic. My
right.
mother's Catholic, so I mean, you know how that goes. You know how that plays out.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I noticed in our family, like, so my brother and sister and I were the oldest grandchildren on my father's side, but the youngest on my mother's side. So we kind of saw all this different stuff. When we were children, I wish we had known, well, we were young, I don't know, 20 years old, right? I wish
Mhm.
I had known when I went to college that I should have asked my younger cousins to come visit me. I didn't really understand the push up that a lot of immigrant families like don't know either, right? So I've worked with a lot of vice principals and coworkers that understand, and we would look at like seventh and eighth grade classrooms and find the students who are doing a really good job and make sure that they were in honors 9 classes, because if they weren't identified and put into an honors 9 class, that jump into an AP class is too much 11th grade year. And a lot of schools I worked at, when I start, I was like, hey, this is a ninth grade honors class, but you're 50% Latino, 50% white, and I don't have any Latino students in my honors class. What the hell's going on around here, right? So then, but the parents don't know sometimes to advocate for that. And then who's going to advocate for that? So we started really looking at, okay, by seventh grade, we have to tier them up and start getting them ready so that we can change this family's outlook, right? And so some of my students that I used to teach that watch this sometimes are off at college, and they're in Washington, D.C., they're in Davis, California, and they're the first in their families to go to college, but also away from home, right? And I'm talking like Latina girls. That's going to be another episode at the end of this year that we're doing. I was like, all right, women, like you went off to college and you're in your second year of college and you're still there, like how's that going? Because that's a lot of pressure too, right? Like we miss you, come home, but we also want you to rise. And how do we help that family rise? Like,
Mm.
yeah. And I see it in my own family because I see that three of my cousins are passed away. They're not here anymore. So where are we going, right? And we all are young and dumb at some point. Yeah, I was like your brothers too, right? I just never got caught. That's the story I always tell, but
Yeah, I mean, you just gotta you're dealt a certain hand. Everyone's dealt a certain hand, and you try to either you play it to the best or you don't. And a lot of people
yeah.
make the best of it.
How do
And
you like help your students with grit? Like I noticed sometimes my 10th grade students, if they were EL learners and they hadn't really caught on by this point, they started giving that self-talk of like, I'm just dumb. I'm just gonna not get it. And then they're kind of trapped in the ELD class and they're not able to RFEP. Those RFEP tests, if I gave that to, a student who's been living, born and raised in America to take that test, it's difficult. I'm not sure how many American like whatever students would pass it. But also, I find like the form that is filled out by parents. We're not. I've talked to many administrators, and they say that they're not legally able to describe to parents what it is they're filling out. But some families are speaking English and another language at home, and so the form says if you speak another language at home, check this box. So there are some students that are like trapped in ELD classes that maybe shouldn't be there in the first place, and then they're not able to pass the RFEP test. I don't know. I find a lot of issues with that. But how do you persevere and like get around all of that? Because your book and your teachings are working.
well, see, for me, it's all comes down to relationships. And it takes time. It usually takes a couple of months to build that rapport with my students, and
Hmm.
then I'll sit down with them and we'll have a genuine heart to heart talk. I do this every year, and I usually do it more towards the end of the year. Like we're coming to that time now where I got to sit down with all of the boys and just the boys, and we're gonna sit down. We're gonna have a real talk. man to
Why do you,
boys.
why do you do it that way? Because I used to work in an all-girls school, and I think there's a lot of interesting stuff about gender right now, but I think men make warriors. Like, why do you choose that? I want to meet with my men, my boys.
Well, because when I meet with the boys separately from the girls, and I'll talk about the girls here in a minute, uh, because the boys, okay, we're talking about Hispanics mostly, right? I just that's just the demographic I work with. There's a certain cultural nuance that is understood in the male part of the culture, right? And it doesn't matter if you're Mexican or Salvadorian; they all have these machismo elements to it, right? So I can come across as the authoritarian uncle or something like that. Some of them don't have fathers, so they kind of make me their surrogate father or whatnot. It happens every year. And so we have that conversation and said, listen, believe it or not, believe it or not, you have an opportunity here. Okay. And my beginnings, and I go through the whole story, much like what I just told you, started out, working in the fields, picking tomatoes, and nothing was expected of me. I was expected to be just another drunk, another drug addict, and just be a loser, working in, whatever loser job, because that's what was expected of me. Okay. And my mother never let me accept that. My mother never let me fall into that trap. And so we have that conversation, and it is a grueling conversation. It is not an easy conversation. It is a
Yeah.
hard conversation, and it's one that I can only have with boys. Now let's step
Mm,
over to the girl side because I have a daughter, right? And I take a similar approach in that I come across as a surrogate father or as a authoritarian type uncle, and I explain to them what is coming down the road if it's not already here because the girls start much younger now, um, and that what to expect boys to tell you, what what the cultural um, road has been of the people, the women before you, and how it's been a repeating history cycle that it's always going on, and that there are other opportunities for you as a girl. And I give my daughter as an example. So my daughter decided to, she wants to be a teacher too, like her father and her mother, and she wants to go down that road, but in order for her to do that, she couldn't fall into the with the boys and wants to run off and all this other stuff because that is an emotional decision, you know. And when you make decisions emotionally, 9 times out of 10, it's not the right one. I mean, I'm just speaking in general. I mean, I'm not
no,
obviously.
man,
I
it's
have no idea.
true.
But I mean, I'm just from what I've seen of my sisters, from what I've seen from my cousins, and from what I've experienced with my own daughter. I
Hmm.
just I lay it on the table for them. I have nothing to gain and nothing to lose by telling you this. And like I said, that's why it has to be girls get one message, boys get another message, because the social and the cultural expectations for both are different.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, I've been working with Latino students my whole career. My current students, some of them are migrant farmers, so they go in the summer and pick strawberries with their families and all of that too. Um, yeah, and I think sometimes they need to hear it from another Latino teacher. Like I can talk but it takes a long time and I have to explain to students like I'm first generation American too. And they're
Mhm.
very confused by that at first,
Yeah.
right? And so we have to have a lot of conversations and a lot of trust built with families, especially when I'm talking about, hey, we want your daughter to go away to college. And they're like, mm-mm, who are you, right? Uh, but yeah, I think that more male Latino teachers would be is what we need. Like you're
Well,
working wonders.
you've heard the old adage, the proof is in the pudding, right? No, I teach at a middle school, but my girls come back and visit me. My boys come back and visit me. Not all of them, of course. They come back and they come look. They do.
You know, that's a cool thing with social media is I have a lot of students, former students on my Instagram, and it's really beautiful. My last group that I taught in Tahoe are now seniors, so I get to see all their senior pictures and what colleges they're choosing. And then students who already have finished college, I'm seeing what their careers are and like it's really beautiful. And I'm always shocked that like, why are you still talking to me? And he's really
Now,
smart.
there's a downside to this test because
Yeah.
every once in a while it happens. It hasn't happened this year, thank God, but then the year is not over yet. But I always get asked to be like a padrino and one of the quinceañeras because from one of my former students, when they turned 15, they always call me and say, oh, will you be the padrino for this or the padrino for that? And my wife is like, oh, here we go again. It's like, why? I'm like, well, because I don't know. I'm like a surrogate uncle to some of these girls. They don't have a strong male figure in their life. I don't know. I was that
Yeah.
for them in their school. So like, let me at least, and I shell it out once in a while. I have to hear it. I have to hear it, but hey, it is what it is.
I don't have a whole tradition because, like, okay, so I never had a quinceañera, but I always tell the girls, like, show me your pictures. I want to see your dresses. And I always think that, like, a page in the yearbook dedicated to their quinceañera dresses would be gorgeous. But, like, what is the padrino? What's your role in
I,
the,
well, usually like the last one we went to, I paid for. She had the little pendant, a necklace. It'll cost me a little bit of money, but then
wow.
it was she got all dolled up. They had a big party, food, you name it. It
Oh,
was immensely big. It was big. It was big. So
it's
it was
gorgeous.
all,
I always
yeah.
wonder too. I'm like, man, by the time you get to your wedding, is it going to be as exciting? Because this
Well,
is
you got a serious thing to compete with, man. Now, with
yeah.
my daughter didn't want that quinceañera.
Oh, yeah. Nor did my friend Desiree. She didn't want one. Why didn't she want one?
She wanted me to do a party for her when she turned 18.
Uh,
We did. We did a beautiful big party. We invited everybody, and the house was full of people, and I had so much food and music and fun. It was a great time. My daughter had a fabulous 18th birthday.
oh, that's
Um,
nice.
but that was the trade-off. She didn't want the whole. My daughter's like me. She doesn't really want all that glam stuff. She likes the private stuff. She likes it, but like just her little close little friends. She doesn't really want to, you know. I taught her like I'd rather have 4 quarters than 100 pennies. I mean, that was the mentality I instilled in my daughter.
Okay, but I want tons of abundance for you. Look at all the and like you can be a good person and also I want you to make bank on the second book. I'm not kidding. Like when is this book out? Like when do we get to purchase it? Also, I'm going to advise the school that I currently work at to purchase your book. So I didn't realize it was for students as well. Like we have been in a tough spot because our ELD teacher, who is amazing, they're not letting her because of schedule, whatever. She's not able to teach the EL1s in class anymore, right? They're thrown into the gen ed classes. And then one of our also amazing like ELD teachers, he's retiring. So we've been looking and wondering about ELD curriculum and how to support our students better. So I think you're it. I think this.
Let me play this out because this is one of the reasons why I designed it the way I did because it's not just like I'm a public school teacher just like everyone else, so I have to deal with these same kind of hurdles. So like I don't know what they call it, the different things in different districts, but for us they call it personalized learning, right?
Okay.
So they slot like 30 to 45 minutes per day for personalized learning. And it's
Okay.
during this slot of time because it's not a full class where I will pull the students that have the level ones, right? And we work with this textbook, right? And so when they have to go back to class because they have to work on their regular curriculum, I already give them their assignments. Say, okay, all these activities, you have your QR codes. You're going to have to go home and you're going to have to practice it on your time because we only have this amount of time to work on it. So I designed it with that in mind so that teachers can still give them the phonemic awareness, the phonics, all the things that they need to get the foundations done. And okay, you're on a time crunch, so you fit it into this time, and then you give the students the assignments. Okay, and you communicate this with the parents. That's big time, big time. It's a big key. Communicate that with the parents because a lot of times the parents will do it with them.
Cool, right?
They'll
That's
do it
what,
with
that's
them,
what we want.
and
Yeah.
the parents are learning it too. You know?
Mm-hmm.
So like it's just a matter of how much is the
Great.
school willing to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's small. And then I made it to where like you don't need to buy all this workbooks and all these other books and pay for this online access, none of that stuff. You just buy the book. You assign this child this book. This one book. You pay the $40 and you give the kid the book, and that book will last you pretty much the entire school year.
That's wonderful. Like, yeah, because I've worked with many ELD teachers and they're always hunting. Where's a curriculum that fits? And when I worked in Tahoe, we were like, there is no curriculum. So we would create debates and we would create like projects of interest. I would have the students bring in food that they missed from home and we'd write restaurant reviews, right? Because we were just trying to get that involvement as well. But I think what you're saying, like we need that base
Yeah.
foundation.
I made this pliable test.
Yeah, this is beautiful.
I spent a lot of time thinking about this. I said, if you're a teacher on a time crunch, it works. If you're a
Hmm.
teacher that wants to implement this for your night class, for your adults, and fit it into a 72-hour course or whatever the amount of hours it is, even if it's a 40-something hour course, you can get through 2, maybe 3 units in that session. Okay?
Yeah.
And you would just teach that. Boom, 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 boom. Or, if you have something where you want to supplement, say, okay, well, I can't really pull too much, but I could allot 20, 30 minutes a day here. I need something to supplement it that'll impact my newcomers and my level twos. Boom, you got this right here. You say, oh, this works. It's very pliable. I can pick and choose. I can add. I can take some stuff out. I made it to where a teacher can look at this and say, I can use this, or I can use all of it. It really is meant for that. It was designed to do that. And you don't have to be forced like, oh man, I got to keep practicing it. No. You give them that. They got the QR code. I just texted to his mom. Tonight I need Pedro to do this, and you can do it too with him and practice your English, and
Yeah.
you will be so surprised of how much engagement you get from parents.
That's
Especially
so
especially
cool.
the ones that are learning too. They want to learn too.
And I think like from the student's perspective, a lot of the high school, middle school students are already having to translate a lot for their parents, right? Like when they come into back to school meetings or when they go and pay a phone bill or what have you. And it's a lot on a student's plate. So I think that there's a beautiful pitch there as well, as far as take this home and learn it with your parents. And it's going to create like togetherness. It's going to ease some of the burden off of you, and you're all going to find joy in learning together. I would say for all students anyway. If I assign a novel, I tell the parents read it with them, join the conversation. That's one thing I loved about COVID is that I would be talking with students,
do stuff together.
and
Yep.
the parents were in the kitchen and they'd bend in and say, "Oh," because I'd be teaching like of mice and men, so we'd be talking about sexism, racism, all the isms,
Uh,
ageisms, and
uh,
also Black Lives Matter was going on at the time. So everyone was in the kitchen and the parents were sitting down, involved in my class, and I was like, "Cool, this is like the best." I mean, it was very interesting. I found
yeah.
some like real positives happening then.
That's really boils down to engagement. It
Yeah.
really does. And the more engaged the students and the parents are with this, dealing with middle and high school students especially, I mean, the sky's the limit. And
That's
really,
cool.
it goes all the way back to like I did the work. I put in the work. And I have tons of people that can attest to it. It works. You know,
Cool.
get the
That's
book.
really
Trust
exciting.
me on this test. You'll like it. Trust me.
Okay, yeah, I feel like this is a great solution for my current school, for all schools. Like
Oh,
this
yeah.
is good. Okay,
I can't afford to do the France thing yet, but maybe if people buy
I
enough
know.
books, maybe
Hurry! I've got until June.
Hey, Tess, I see you.
I've got until June. Hurry up!
I'm teasing you. I'm teasing you.
Oh my gosh, I'm mortified because I've been so busy teaching that like I haven't been working on it. Like I'm the worst student possible. I'm like I know
You
croissants.
might
I
need, you
know.
might need some. You might need some QR codes too there, Tess.
Yeah, I'm gonna be heavy on my Google Translate. I need to buy those Ray-Ban sunglasses that are gonna like
Yeah.
show me the street signs. Yeah, who can afford that one? I
Wow. Wow, this has been a great interview. I
yeah.
feel like we're just talking. This is like a conversation between two teachers that really